Shooting today's daily dose from the dock up here in northern Minnesota. Let's start with Proverbs 25:28. It declares that like a city whose walls are broken through is a person who lacks restraint. Now remember that word restraint. You see, it's tragic what's happening in cities around the United States. There's so much violence. I read a recent headline that said at least 150 people were killed by gun violence in more than 400 shootings across the country during the 4th of July weekend as major cities nationwide confront a surge in violent crime. I also read that in Portland, records show that murders are more than tripled year over year, a 1,600% increase in January and February of 2021 alone. Of course, New York and Chicago, they continue to have massive increases in violence. So why is this happening? Well, some blame it on guns, as if all of a sudden these guns decided to magically, by themselves, start committing violence. But here's the problem with that. The cities with these massive increases in violent crime are the same cities that already have the strictest gun laws. So what's really the problem? I would argue that it's because these cities have removed restraint. Remember that word? Restraint. They've removed or decidedly reduced the ability to restrain those who look to do evil. More specifically, these cities have removed restraint in the form of defunding the police, reducing their police forces, and then just tying the hands of law enforcement. Well, here's the biblical truth. You ready? Restraint is healthy. Restraint is important. Restraint is what God has given us so that we won't continue to fall into sin, to revert into chaos, and to hurt ourselves. Restraint. And here are 3 things God has given us to help us restrain ourselves. 3 things that each of us needs personally and what we need as a society to keep us from hurting ourselves. Number 1, a conscience. Romans 13:5 says this. It says, therefore, it is necessary to submit to the authorities, not only because of possible punishment, but also as a matter of conscience. So look, God has given mankind a conscience. We inherently know, because God has given us that ability, we inherently know what's right, and we're held responsible before God because he's given us a conscience that brings restraint. For instance, unlike animals, we have a conscience that tells us that it's wrong to murder. God has programmed us. He's created within us restraint. The second thing that God has given us for restraint is the family. Check out this warning. It's in 1 Samuel 3:13. It says, for I told him that I would judge his family forever because of the sin he knew about. His sons blasphemed God, and he failed to restrain them. Families, parents, they're of huge importance in creating an environment of restraint and protection and freedom. Why is violence, evil, and hurt on the rise in this country? I would argue that it's because the family is on the decline. We're blowing up the family as God has designed the family to be. Here's how it's supposed to be. Look in Ephesians chapter 6. We read this. It says, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise. Look, the only one of the 10 commandments that promises long life is this. And parents, it says, do not provoke your children to anger. Don't overdo it, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. This is instruction with discipline. Okay, the third thing that God has given us is societal restraint or cultural authority, civil authority. Check this out. 1 Peter 2:13 and 14 says, submit yourselves for the Lord's sake to every human authority, whether to the emperor as the supreme authority or to governors who are sent by him to punish those who do wrong and to commend those who do right. So look, the primary duty of civil authority is to ensure the moral well-being of its citizens. That's us. Civil authority, like police officers, right? It's given in order to restrain sinners and reward those who do good, so that we can be civilized, so we can enjoy a measure of peace and joy in life and as being God's creation. Yet we have dangerous movement in our nation, a movement by progressives to inhibit those who are charged with restraining evil to do their jobs. Progressives are defunding And they're even demeaning the very people who put their lives on the line to restrain violence and protect us from this violence. This is insane. It's out of God's design for our society. So here we have it. We have the individual. To us, God has said, submit to the law of God and to your conscience. To the child, and again, that's every one of us also, we're told by God to submit to the law of God and to our parents. And to citizens, which again is us, we're told to submit to the law of God as enforced by the civil authorities. So what we need in this country isn't gun control. Rather, we need self-control. We need restraint. We need to support and honor those charged with bringing restraint. We need to give honor to the Holy Spirit, honor to our parents and parental rights, and honor to law enforcement. God bless you.